But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Today's Downfall. Today we're going to be discussing the vaccine. I'm going to try to be as thorough as possible with it. There's a lot of different talks about it. Both sides of the aisle, right and left. There's talks about the efficacy of it. There's talks about the legitimacy of it. There's also talks about how the right wingers are the only ones against it, how they're anti-vaxxers, how they're trying to hurt other people or how they're going to hurt other people. And there's a lot going on with it. So I'm going to be discussing two things, which is some of the science behind it of what I can find. And I'm also going to go in how the Democrats made a huge switch where they were the original mainstream anti-vaxxers. They are the ones that were telling people they weren't going to take the vaccine because Trump was behind the vaccine. And we'll get into that talk here in a little bit. So the first things we're going to talk about is the effectiveness. So we have the new variant, the Delta variant. It's 50% more transmissible, which means it's easier to transfer from one to one. Supposedly there's like 1,000 times more particles in your nose of the virus. It's just way more easy for it to go from one person to the other. Now, before the Delta variant, the way they talked about the vaccine was you didn't have to wear a mask anymore if you were fully vaccinated. You could go indoors, outdoors, do whatever you wanted to do if you were fully vaccinated. Now, even if you're fully vaccinated, they want you to wear a mask again. CDC just released the new guidelines. They want you to wear a mask, even if you're fully vaccinated. And that's because the way that they've talked about the vaccine from the beginning, especially since January when the Democrats took office, they acted like it was a cure-all. That was dumb on them. They should have never talked so highly of a vaccine. That was just, if you say, hey, this is it, everybody gets vaccinated, we'll be done, and then you have all these vaccinated people getting COVID, spreading COVID, some of them dying from COVID still, like, the vaccine is doing what it's supposed to be doing, not on the scale they talked about, especially not with this Delta variant. It's hard for them to hide. They really can't hide it anymore. So now there's new studies coming out talking about how effective it actually is against the Delta variant. The CDC is having to tell vaccinated people to get it, and the whole narrative is about to change from the unvaccinated to the under-vaccinated. So right here with the effectiveness of COVID-19 vaccines against the B.1.617.2, which is the Delta variant, go down. The Delta variant of the severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes coronavirus disease 2019, has contributed to a surge in cases in India and has now been detected across the globe, including notable increases in cases in the United Kingdom. It's hit a lot of Europe, I think now. This could be kind of old. Should be updated July 21. So the last update was 8 days ago. But yeah, it's in the United States. I'm pretty sure it's hit Germany. Delta variant has made it across the globe already. It's in Australia as well. So we use a test negative case control designed to estimate the effectiveness of vaccination against symptomatic disease caused by the Delta variant of the predominant strain B.1.1.7 or Alpha variant over the period of the Delta variant began circulating. So they obviously tested on the normal coronavirus effectiveness. Like that's what they were seeing over the period that the Delta variant began circulating. Variants were identified with the use of sequencing and on basis of the spike S gene status. The spike is why it gets the name coronavirus. The corona is the little spikes around it. Looks like a crown. Yeah. Data on all symptomatic sequence cases of COVID-19 in England were used to estimate the proportion of cases with either variant according to the patient's vaccination status. Now, Effectiveness after one dose was notably lower among persons with the Delta variant. So, this is like if it's a two-shot vaccine, and now they're not even actually can't say that. So the Pfizer's two-shot. Uh, Johnson and Johnson's one shot. I think the Moderna is one shot. So those are not even considered one dose vaccines, even though that's the way they started. When they started, Pfizer you had to get two. Johnson and Johnson you had to get one. But now that's not enough. There's talks about mixing vaccines, like where you go and get say one shot of Johnson Johnson, one shot of Moderna. There's a lot of weird talks about them, the way they're wanting to do this vaccine. Which, if all the vaccines do the same thing, which they don't all do the same thing. There's only I think two of them that are mRNA, but it doesn't make sense to have to mix and match vaccines if they all try to accomplish the same thing. It just seems dangerous to me. Um, yeah, so the effectiveness of one dose was notably lower among persons with Delta variant, 30%. 95% confidence interval, 25 to 35. Okay, so yeah, 30% average, but so the lower end was 25% effective, the higher end was 35% effective. Then among those, the alpha variant. So here's the thing, which they don't talk about a lot, was so one dose of vaccine is only 50% effective against the normal coronavirus. 45% on the low end, 51% on the high end. That's not that effective. Not to where they should be pushing it like this, especially with the age range of corona being harmful. The results are similar for both vaccines, with the BNT162b2 vaccine. The effectiveness of two doses was 93. So two doses was 93 among persons with the alpha variant and 88% with the delta variant. Now that's catching it. So, yeah, this is two doses. So the only one should be the Pfizer with two doses. 90% with the Delta variant, 95 average. With the CHADOX1NCOV19 vaccine, the effectiveness of two doses was 74. So 68 on the low end, 79 on the high end among persons with the alpha variant, and 67, 61 on the low end, 72 on the high end with the Delta variant. So let me see which one this is. Huh. Not sure who makes that one. Let's see what this one is. I'm pretty sure this one is Pfizer. Yeah, so that's Pfizer. I'm not sure who makes the other one. Okay. So this is only over two of them, one from Oxford and one from Pfizer. That second one, that CHADOX1, isn't even that good of one, to be honest. So, phase 2, phase 3 trials in the UK. When did this come out? This came out in 2020. July of 2020. Huh. I am not sure at all about that one. It's on this paper from the NIH, so we shall see. Yeah, but it's not that effective. So really, the only one that is effective, supposedly, is the Pfizer one. The Pfizer and two doses of it. And on the low end, it's 85% effective. So that means that's a 15% chance of getting it. Now the thing is that does not change the effect of spreading it. You can always carry it. That just has to do with your body fighting it off, and that's an obvious thing. So I mean, even the flu vaccine, you can still get the flu. It makes sense if your body isn't doing that well. Now, see, my whole thing of it is they should be able to give you the vaccine and then see if your body made antibodies against it. If it did, then they should be able to do a test to see if you need a second dose. After the second dose, they should still see if you're at risk. Okay, so this is a table of the vaccines. So we have unvaccinated here, test negative controls, 96,000. The cases was 7,313. Case number on the Delta variant was 4,000 cases, and the ratio was 0.04. really not that bad, to completely be honest here. I don't like that they didn't put a percent there. It'd make these seem not that much better. So, anyways, dose one, of 51,000 negative tests, there was 2,222, ratio of 0.04, which was 48% effectiveness. So that right there is probably really close to a 40% with no vaccine at all. So dose one's completely pointless. Delta variant 1,493, 0.029, 30%. Yeah. Dose two out of 22,000 cases, 143 normal cases, 0.06, so 87. 340 Delta variants, 0.14, 80% effectiveness. So that's not that bad. We can figure out how. And really, if you add in the Delta and the Alpha, like coronavirus in general, that is not good. They're separating the two, which makes sense, but also doesn't make sense if they separate the two. The coronavirus vaccine is supposed to be against coronavirus. Variant shouldn't matter. Um, and the reason they shouldn't matter is because it goes after the spike protein. The spike protein was the entire point of an mRNA vaccine. Like the entire purpose of mRNA vaccine was so that your immune system would recognize the spike protein, which is on the coronaviruses, and go after them. So like the common cold, MERS, SARS, COVID-19, it should be able to go after all of those. A variant should not matter at all. So yeah, that's weird to me. I wish they had a total. I think they intentionally didn't add a total. Yep. So there's that. Okay, this article came out July 18th, so about 10 days ago. Uh, After declining steeply for 6 months, coronavirus cases are once again on the rise thanks to the Delta variant. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reported Friday that new cases are up by nearly 70% in just 1 week. Hospitalizations are up nearly 36%. Surges are most pronounced in areas where vaccination rates are low, but there are also increases in places such as Los Angeles, New York City, and health officials are once again urgently pressing unvaccinated Americans to get the shot. This is becoming a pandemic of the unvaccinated, said CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky at a briefing Friday. If you remain unvaccinated, you are at risk. Okay. If the unvaccinated are at risk, don't worry about it. If the people don't want to get vaccinated, don't worry about it. Uh, if there's no danger to vaccinated people and people that want to be vaccinated are vaccinated, don't worry about it. But if you're already vaccinated, how worried should you be? Are new precautions called for? Here's what to know about the fast spreading variant and how to stay safe and protect others. So, how much more contagious is the Delta variant? Very. As NPR has reported, Delta appears to be, oh, I said 50% earlier, 225% more transmissible than the original SARS-CoV-2 strains. Once recent preprint study from China found that people who are infected with Delta have, on average, about 1,000 times more copies of the virus in the respiratory tracts than those infected with the original strain, and are infectious earlier in the course of their illness. No matter how you look at it, Delta seems to spread faster, explains Helen Chu, Associate Professor of Medicine at the University of Washington. There's a space missing there. You can look at it through modeling, you can look at it through population level data, and you can look at it simply by putting the virus into the cell and looking how quickly it infects the cell. She says, in all of those measures, it has looked like it's more transmissible. If I'm vaccinated, can I get sick with Delta? Yes, but don't panic. The vaccines are effective against the Delta variant, and though it's still possible to get infected, the vaccines dramatically reduce the risk of serious illness that leads to hospitalization or death. A study from the UK found that the Pfizer vaccine is 96% effective against hospitalization from the Delta variant after 2 doses. For context, the CDC has documented a total of 5,492 cases of fully vaccinated people who were hospitalized or died from COVID-19. That's a big number of the 160 million people who have been fully vaccinated in this country. Okay. It's not a big number in relation to that, but that's still. We shut down the entire country for less than that. Uh, okay. So, right now, this is the top one is the 5,492 cases of fully vaccinated people who were hospitalized or died from COVID among the 160 million people who have been fully vaccinated in this country, so the United States. We don't know what the global uh, statistics are. But also, I want to add that this is only talking about hospitalizations or died. So this is not talking about everybody that got sick from it. And the number is very low. It's 0.000003 of a percent. So that's super super low. But now, if we go over COVID as a whole globally, it's 0.05%. So it's 5% of a percent is how crazy this entire virus is that we've shut the entire world down for. Uh, every time I see how small the numbers are, it blows me away. But I did think that was going to be a little higher, and I was like, well, we shut the whole country down for this. Why is this insignificant now? But that is very low. Anyways, what about long COVID-19? While the risk of getting sick if you're vaccinated is very low, if you do get a symptomatic case, it's likely possible to end up with long-haul COVID-19 symptoms, according to virologist Angela Rasmussen, who works with the Vaccine and Infectious Disease Organization of the University of Saskatchewan in Canada. She notes the data is still quite limited, though. Even if you don't end up in the hospital, there's a certain possibility that you could end up with long COVID. So the safest thing to do is avoid being infected altogether. This is the big question of the week. Should we go back to wearing a mask in public? Many health experts say that may be a smart move, especially when you're going to be indoors with people who may be unvaccinated or unmasked. So what they're going to want you to do is avoid the unvaccinated. They're sick. They're dirty people. You need to stay away from them. Your vaccine does nothing if you're near them. It's the dumbest thing ever. Hey, I'm vaccinated. Hey, it's 90% somewhat effective. Hey, your chances of going to the hospital or dying is super, super low. Hey, this kills people above 50 and older and people with underlying health conditions. And if you're relatively healthy, you have nothing to worry about. Stay away from the unvaccinated and unmasked. That is fucking crazy. I would, says True University of Washington. I haven't stopped masking indoors. Oh, you brave, brave soul. Gotta love this fucking virus. It's got the world going crazy. Clear that unvaccinated people are not following the recommended indoor masking guidelines. He notes, you go into a grocery store and 95% of people are unmasked when we haven't come close to that level of vaccination. This could put people at risk, including children and people who are immunocompromised. Yes, if you're immune compromised, you should try and get the vaccine if you can. You should wear masks really no matter what. You shouldn't be just walking around a store touching things if you're immunocompromised. If you're immune compromised, there's a lot of precautions you should be taking. You should be taking, not other people taking for you, especially in public. Los Angeles is re-implementing the mask mandate. CDC announced new guidelines 2 months since CDC announced new guidelines declaring that vaccinated people don't need to wear a mask in most settings, but the World Health Organization still encourages people to mask up. But yesterday, actually, CDC mask guidelines, yesterday they changed that. Let me see if they got a... Yep. So 27th, today is the 29th, 2 days ago. Updated, added a new recommendation for fully vaccinated people to wear a mask in public indoor settings in areas of substantial or high transmission. So Your vaccine does nothing. Wear your mask. So this I read a couple days ago, and I was meant to make an episode Tuesday. School got in the way, and then yesterday because I missed Tuesday, I didn't feel like making an episode. But I seen this a couple days ago, and it was a different articles. There's a few of them out there now. This is coming from Israel. Uh, there's been a couple things coming from them, and this is one of the ones that they're trying to like push down. You have to really like you have to almost search for this word for word to find any articles on it. Is the Pfizer vaccine now just 39% effective? What new research from Israel reveals and doesn't. So, this one, I think I got two of them up. Yeah, so we're going to look at both sides of this. Newly published, oh, come on. A newly published, newly published data from Israel suggests that Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine may be losing effectiveness. Anthony Fauci, director of the NIH and chief medical advisor to the White House, said officials are reconsidering their current masking guidelines. Yeah, we know this. New data from Israel hints at possible decline in vaccine effectiveness. On Thursday, Israel Health Ministry released preliminary data suggesting that while the Pfizer biotech vaccine remains very effective at preventing severe COVID-19, it may be losing effectiveness against milder cases of the disease, which means we're getting herd immunity to the vaccine. The vaccine isn't helping us. Specifically, and that's the whole dumb thing about a booster thing. Yeah, okay. Anyways, uh, specifically, researchers have estimated the vaccine was just 39% effective at preventing infection in Israel in late June and early July, compared to 95% from January to early April. However, the vaccine was more than 90% effective at preventing severe COVID-19 in both time periods. So helps your immune system, but getting like a cold-like symptoms, I guess, is what they're talking about. Mild symptoms. Mild COVID symptoms would be cold-like symptoms, like sore body, breathing, congestion, the taste, smell, all that kind of stuff. Experts suggested several possible explanations for the seeming decline, including the possible waning of immune protection in people vaccinated early in the year, and the increasing prevalence of coronavirus variants that can particularly evade vaccine-induced immunity. But it's also possible that the apparent decline is a mathematical fluke. Case numbers are much lower in Israel now than they were earlier in the year, so it's increasingly difficult to accurately gauge the degree of protection provided by vaccines. I think that data should be taken very cautiously because of small numbers. Okay, yeah, this goes into the mathematical thing. So let's try to see if we can figure out this whole mathematical problem. It's only 39% effective, preventing infection within the country. It's about half as effective as the vaccine was 2 weeks ago, when it purportedly exhibited 64% effectiveness against coronavirus. So if they've been, I think if they had it 64% 2 weeks ago, now it's 39, and they did have it 90% back then, I think they've been following it well enough. So it calculates the effectiveness of a vaccine by analyzing the number of infections among the vaccinated and comparing it with those who were unvaccinated in the examined period. See, actually, that's what I was talking about with that other one. I didn't like that they didn't have the numbers for the unvaccinated up there. They didn't have the percentages of the cases of the unvaccinated. Like, you can't. So if you got 1,000,000 cases, and 100 of those, or no, actually, let's say if you have 1,000,000 cases in America, and 100,000 of those, 100,000 of the million go into hospital. That's a 1%, right? That looks extreme. But if you only count the cases, right, and you don't go into the 330 million people that live in America, like the number's a lot smaller than they lead us to believe. Like with all of the cases combined in the world to the 8 billion people on the planet, it's so tiny. It looks big because there's 8 billion people on the planet. You can make all those numbers look big. So you need to, like any test yeah, like if people are getting vaccinated to see if they aren't going to get the disease anymore, you can't just say, okay, out of this 100 vaccinated people, only 10 people got it. At the same time where there's 100 unvaccinated people and nobody got it. So that means unvaccinated 100%, 100% can't get it. That's the dumbest way to check effectiveness. You have to take unvaccinated and vaccinated, have them around the same conditions, and see if your vaccine is actually doing what it's supposed to be doing, or if that's just a fluke. You know, we're testing this vaccine during the summer. Everybody's outside, the sun's out. Your immune system is stronger in the summer because of the vitamin D. You're being more active. Winter, when it comes, oh, these vaccinated people, they're going to be having just as many cases as the unvaccinated. Watch it. I mean, I'm serious. They're testing it. I'm not a doctor, but just off the math, you have to have a control. You cannot test effectiveness without a control. That's why through all medications, to say that your medication does what it does, you have to do placebo trials. You have to do nocebo trials. You have to show that it's your pill doing it and it's not a fluke, which means you have to have, say, 100 people, 50 with your medication, 50 without, and see if they perform better than those without. That's like everybody knows that. That's not new science. So comparing it with those who were unvaccinated in the examined period, the latest analysis was conducted among hundreds of people, a relatively small sample size. That's true, but they're checking both vaccinated and unvaccinated. You have to do that. Chairman of Israel's National Expert Advisory Team on COVID-19 response told Bloomberg that some factors may have not been accounted for in data, included the heavily skewed exposure patterns in recent outbreak in Israel, which are limited to specific population sectors and localities. We're trying to complement this research approach with additional ones, taking additional personal characteristics into account. This takes time and larger case numbers. Okay. I do like the way they're doing their study. I like that they put that information out there. I like that even though they could be off, they put it out there to where people can read it. Where these, say, the United States is, go get it. It's going to save everybody's life. They're comparing the unvaccinated to drunk driving, which is just so far off. Stupid, dumb. All right, we're back, and now I'm going to go into the conversation of the Democrats 2020 before Biden won. Democrat Biden warns against rushing out coronavirus vaccine, says Trump cannot be trusted. This is the same vaccine that they're trying to get the entire world to take. The Pfizer, I think, Pfizer was the first one. So, Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden on Wednesday rejected President Donald Trump's charge that he is spreading fear about the safety of a potential coronavirus vaccine, urging Trump to defer to scientists and not rush its rollout. So, scientists at Pfizer got funded, and a bunch of other pharmaceutical companies got funding through Operation Warp Speed, which was put in place by Donald Trump. Donald Trump said for the longest time that he would have the vaccine out by December of 2020. It actually came out a little earlier, and he had already started giving vaccines in November. The Democrats were very, very anti-vax. They were telling everyone not to get the Trump vaccine. Let me be clear, I trust vaccines, I trust scientists, but I don't trust Donald Trump. It's the same one. At this moment, the American people can't either. Biden warned against trying to rush out an unfinished vaccine ahead of November 3rd election. So, don't rush the vaccine. The main hesitancy of this vaccine is that it was a rushed vaccine. Trump, who accused Biden and his campaign of stoking doubt among Americans about the efficacy of a vaccine, told reporters at the White House later that Biden should stop promoting anti-vaccine theories. It's a whole opposite world. They're recklessly endangering lives. You can't do that, said Trump, who predicted at least 100 million doses of coronavirus vaccine could be distributed by the end of 2020. Let me Google that. 12 million. Okay, so 12 million. I didn't think it's that high. 12 million is still a lot. So, 100 million doses of coronavirus vaccine could be distributed by the end of 2020. So he was off by a lot there, but still, the coronavirus has caused about the most of any country. We also have one of the highest populations outside of China and India. Millions of job losses. We know all this. Okay, yeah. So we believe the FDA is not going to approve something that isn't safe and effective. The White House, Trump contradicted one of his own top health officials, Robert Redfield. Redfield told a congressional on Wednesday that even if the COVID-19 vaccine was approved in the coming weeks, it likely would not be widely available to the public until the middle of next year. No, I think he made a mistake when he said that. That's incorrect information. I believe he was confused. I think he misunderstood the question, probably. Okay, so we know the vaccine came out in November, and they started pumping it out. By the end of December, they were doing 1 million doses a day. Uh, it came from pharmaceutical companies. It has not got FDA approval, but Democrats were very much against a rushed vaccine. So, oh my goodness, what's everybody want you to freaking pay? Yeah, same article. Democrats face quandary on vaccine support as election nears. Okay. President Donald Trump is escalating his promise for a coronavirus vaccine before Election Day, but across America, Democrats, independents, and even some Republicans do not trust his administration to produce a safe and effective vaccine on such an aggressive timeline. Such hesitancy threatens to exacerbate the public health risk for millions of Americans whenever a vaccine is released. With the November 3rd election fast approaching, Democrats officials face a delicate political challenge. Should they attack Trump's vaccine claims too aggressively, Democrats risk further undermining public confidence in a possible life-saving medicine while looking as though they are rooting against a potential cure. But if they don't push back, it makes it easier for Trump to use the real or imagined prospect of a vaccine to boost his reelection campaign. Boom. Like, they were the people. Yeah. Ah, man. It's funny. It's absolutely hilarious. All right, so let's go here. Accept all. This says Trump falsely takes credit for Pfizer vaccine success. Accuses FDA and Democrats of stalling news until after the election. This is in November 10 of 2020. So this is off of the other ones, possibly very, very true. But this is saying it's false, which is, I think, in hindsight, obviously not false. While falsely claiming electoral victory, Donald Trump has also been misleadingly taking credit for the successful development of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine, which announced very promising early results this week, as he baselessly accused Democrats and the FDA of stalling the vaccine and toying with American lives in order to deny him a pre-election win. Key facts: after Pfizer BioNTech announced early data that showed their COVID-19 vaccine to be 90% effective, Trump swiftly responded on the Twitter, describing it as such great news. Okay, nothing wrong there. Hours later, Trump, without evidence, accused Pfizer of not having the courage to release the results before the presidential election, as well as the FDA, who apparently held things up for political purposes. We have no idea if that's true or not, and neither does Forbes. Trump went on to wrongly claim that the FDA and Democrats didn't want him to have a vaccine win prior to the election, and that if President-elect Joe Biden were president, you wouldn't have the vaccine for another 4 years. He added that the bureaucracy would have destroyed millions of lives before quoting messages from others lauding his supposed success in bringing about a COVID-19 vaccine. While Trump and his supporters are right to point out Pfizer's involvement with the government through his administration's Operation Warp Speed and effort to deliver a COVID-19 vaccine as soon as possible, it is incorrect to claim credit for the vaccine's development, as the scheme did not fund it, something Pfizer's head of vaccine development forcefully stated. See, that doesn't make any sense. How can you say, while Trump and his supporters are right to point out Pfizer's involvement with the government through his administration's Operation Warp Speed, an effort to deliver COVID-19 vaccine as soon as possible, it is incorrect to claim credit for the vaccine's development, as the scheme did not fund it. So what was their involvement with Operation Warp Speed if it did not get funded? Something Pfizer's head of vaccine development forcefully stated in an interview with New York Times. While the 1.95 billion deal is substantial. It is only to secure an initial 100 million doses should the development be successful, leaving Pfizer to shoulder the risk of development. Yeah, okay. So that last part there, what would really, really make a pharmaceutical company want to get that vaccine out as quick as possible? That they would want to be the first one because they would want that $2 billion deal to get the 100 million doses. Did not fund it. Get out of here. That's the dumbest thing I ever fucking read. Yeah, key background, what to watch for, tangent, chief critic, crucial quote. Yeah, so Democrats hating on Trump's vaccine. See if that's lined up right. Yeah, we're okay. Uh, rushing, this is from USA Today, an opinion piece. Russian coronavirus's holy grail vaccine could turn into a curse. Donald Trump's hopes for COVID-19 redemption before the election day, but politics bullying science could cripple health institutions' credibility for years. It would be the cruelest of ironies if Donald Trump's great bid for redemption after so many coronavirus failures, disagree, every country failed, by rapidly producing a vaccine, also fails because of the mismanagement. The president is banking on acquiring what his campaign advisors call the Holy Grail by Election Day. We're going to have a vaccine very soon, maybe even before a very special date. You know what date I'm talking about. Trump teased Monday. It'd be a totem of ultimate achievement over a virus that on Trump's watch has wrecked the economy and killed nearly 190,000 Americans, greater losses than any other nation in the world, also due to population. And population congestion in major cities. California, New York, and Michigan killed a shitload of people on their management and under their watch. Wrecked the economy. The economy, we won't talk about that. Uh, Operation Warp Speed could work after failing to respond quickly when the virus emerged in January, failing to produce testing, failing to promote wearing masks and maintaining social distancing, and failing to delay economic reopening until infection rates had subsided. Producing a vaccine would be Trump's way of showing he could finally get something right, and his Operation Warp Speed has been an estimable achievement, spending $10 billion to reduce the financial risk for pharmaceutical companies so they could move through phase testing and produce a vaccine quicker than ever before. A thoroughly vetted, safe, and effective vaccine by January would be a marvel. The goal is to cure a viral epidemic. However, two ingredients are crucial: a vaccine and a willingness by healthy people to have it injected into their bodies. Democrats really hurt that part. As sharply divided as Americans may be, they are one of mind about Trump's Holy Grail. 72% of Republicans and 82% of Democrats are worried that the vaccine's rapid production has been driven more by politics than science. Their concern is whether it will be safe. Refusal to get vaccinated. Already polling over the summer shows that up to a third of Americans will refuse to be vaccinated for COVID-19. Much of that an aversion to this particular treatment rather than vaccines in general. Two-thirds of U.S. voters say they won't try the coronavirus vaccine as soon as it becomes available, as 1 in 4 say they don't want to ever get it, according to a new USA Today Suffolk poll. And can you blame them? Not because of Trump. I don't know. No president would have done any better in this entire situation. The whole fucking thing of Trump failing at coronavirus is stupid. Nobody would have done different. Uh, they couldn't have done any different. And okay, maybe if another president, like a Democratic president, would have said, "Hey, we have to cut off the borders to China because that's where the virus started," they would have said, "Yeah, understandable." But instead, they called Trump racist and all that kind of stuff, and they tried to halt him on cutting borders and closing off the country. 72% of Republicans. I'm going to open up this. Yeah, and this is from. Don't see a date on it. Yeah. So if COVID-19 vaccine is approved quickly, I would worry about how safe it is. Democrat, Republican, total. I am confident the FDA will only approve a COVID-19 vaccine if it's safe. Yeah, but it's not FDA approved. I'm actually going to save that image. House Democrats began to probe into Trump's warp speed vaccine initiative. This is from August 2020. Yeah. House Democrats have begun investigating Operation Warp Speed, the Trump administration's effort to fund the swift creation and deployment of a coronavirus vaccine and therapeutic treatments, citing a lack of transparency and potentially serious ethical issues related to its chief advisor, according to correspondence released by the committee overseeing the government's coronavirus response. Uh, Rep. James Clysburn, DSC, Democrat, South Carolina, who chairs the House Select Subcommittee on Coronavirus, sent letters this week to Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar and two advisors to the Warp Speed effort, demanding more information about what Clyburn called an opaque process that could undermine public confidence in any eventual vaccine. Some $9 billion in federal funds has already been committed so far to the development of the vaccine against the virus, which has sickened some 5 million confirmed cases in America and killed at least 167,000. Lack of transparency in the development of the coronavirus vaccine, especially on an accelerated timeline, could contribute to the growth of anti-vaccination sentiment. It's going to deliver a briefing on Thursday as an insight to the vaccine development. Trump has made speedy approval of vaccine a top priority, saying as recently as last week that one would be ready sooner than the end of the year, could be much sooner. He also suggested a vaccine could be approved before the November 3rd election. Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of the NIH, top White House advisor on the coronavirus pandemic, has been more measured, saying he is cautiously optimistic that the U.S. could have a vaccine by early next year. Nothing else there, but that's Democrats attacking the vaccine. Harris says she wouldn't trust Trump on any vaccine released before the election. She took the vaccine that was released before the election. One more. Dems twisted vaccine politicking may put our recovery at risk. Yep. Okay. Operation Warp Speed has been an unmitigated triumph, producing 2 coronavirus vaccines and 2 effective treatments with more to come in a record 7 months, at least 5 years ahead of the usual schedule. 5 years ahead. See, that's why people have hesitancy. Like, yeah. We now will be able to put the pandemic behind us by May. So it's one of the heroes of this uniquely American effort. That will require 70% of the country to agree to being immunized to allow for true herd immunity to take place. But whether or not we will reach the crucial herd immunity deadline is in doubt, not because of any flaw of the planning of the other hero to warp speed. Yeah, it is in doubt because of the politically motivated scaremongering from Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and cronies such as Andrew Cuomo, who have done their best to shake faith in the vaccines in order to diminish what may be President Trump's greatest success. This is despicably petty when we face the prospect of more than 1,000 people dying every day. Biden stopped last week to using the vaccine as a cudgel to force the Trump administration into expediting his transition. Look at that. I don't trust Donald Trump, said Biden, claiming that a mask remains more potent weapon against the virus than the vaccine. Copy and paste in that. Cuomo described the vaccine breakthrough as bad news and wanted to conscript other governors into a plot to shape, as in. So this dog got. Okay, boat. As in obstruct any vaccine rollout until Biden is installed January 20th. The governor was at it again yesterday, throwing shade at the timing of the vaccine rollout. People say, don't worry, there's a vaccine. I will wager you dollars for donuts. It's 6 months at a minimum. You would think that our leaders, whatever the political party, would pull together to end the pandemic as quickly as possible. What is their motivation to keep up the misery? All right, just to end this entire video. It's probably probably the longest one so far. And it's just rambling. The vaccine is still ongoing through trials. They can't deny it. It's not FDA approved. It is still going through trial phases. New data is coming out almost daily from around the world. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. I don't like that they talk about it being a cure-all. I don't like that they pretend that the unvaccinated are just so dangerous to society, because this isn't the polio vaccine. You know, this isn't. It doesn't even work the same. So as the polio vaccine, it is a new vaccine. It's the first mRNA vaccine that I know of. And when you look into what mRNA is and what it's supposed to do, if it's already failing or say diminishing from one variant, and that variant still has the spike protein, otherwise it wouldn't be a coronavirus, and it's already failing, that's troublesome. That's gonna raise some doubts. And then rewind that to 2020. Um, the Democrats were so against this vaccine, the same vaccine that they're telling everybody to get. They were so against it because it was a rushed vaccine. 80% of the population was against it. But now, Biden's elected, anti vaxxers are only right wing or Trump supporters or whatever. Uh, I'd say talk to your doctor still. I'm not against getting the vaccine if you want to get the vaccine. Uh, but yeah, definitely research it yourself, learn about it yourself. Don't listen to Democrats. Don't listen to Republicans. Inform yourself. Research yourself. There's papers upon papers. And if you don't trust the American media, then you can go and look at Israel. If you don't trust them, you can go and look at Australia. You can go look at China. You can go look at all these different countries, Russia, and go look at the papers they're pointing out or putting out for their statistical data. And learn yourself what's going on with it and how you feel about it. But yeah, that's today's downfall. That is still the huge discussion over the past few weeks, especially since the CDC released new guidelines for the vaccinated to start wearing a mask again. Um, I'll see you guys tomorrow.